Is a trade deal enough to send an election one way or another? One man who knows this all too well is Ray Hurd. He was there for the 1988 election, helping John Turner as Turner decided to make that election all about free trade. He ultimately lost. Brian Mulroney won. We got free trade. Then we got NAFTA. And now we're at the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Ray Hurd joins me from Toronto. Ray, it's a different time than 1988, but a lot of these same arguments are being made. We'll lose sovereignty. This is bad for Canadian business. Do you think this is going to have an impact on the election one way or another?
I think it will definitely have major impact on the election, underrated so far by the media party. And by the way, Brian, why doesn't someone interview Brian Mulroney? Brian Mulroney didn't start this process. When I was a young reporter, the Canada-US Free Trade Agreement, negotiated by Lester Pearson and the Liberals, led to the free trade agreement with the United States, then the deal NAFTA with Mexico, and now Harper has a deal embracing 40% of the world's GDP. This is the biggest free trade deal in history.
So, who's it going to help? Who's it going to hurt?
It's going to help more people than it hurts, because basically these special interest groups, okay, and they've been paid off by Harper. He's giving dairy farmers and auto workers huge subsidies, which I think is a bit of a mistake. If you have a market of 40 billion people and you're not stupid, you're going to sell a lot more goods. And with the dollar low, and the dollar is going to stay low for many years, we've got an extra advantage to sell to Japan and the United States, which are respectively the biggest and the third biggest economy on earth, with China as the second. And China is not in this deal yet, but they will come in.
As far as politically, does this become an issue that moves votes one way or another? Tom Mulcair is out there saying this is going to hurt Canadians. We have to stop it. We'll rip it up. Stephen Harper is, putting it forward as a great thing for Canada. It's going to help. It'll lead to greater prosperity. And Justin Trudeau's in the middle saying, well, of course we like free trade. Devil's in the details. We'll see.
Yeah, I think Justin's doing that because he knows, like the anti-terrorism bill, he's going to support it ultimately, because Justin's advisors, and Justin has no ideas of his own. He gets it from Gerald Butts, his chief advisor, and a smart MP from Saskatchewan, Ralph Goodale, the smartest. And those liberals, and also a lot of senior liberals who've been in the cabinet, Donald McDonald's another one, they know that if you have a 40 billion population, educated.
No, hold on, Ray. Let's correct the number there. It's not 40 billion. That's bigger than the whole planet. It's 800 million people.
No. 40% of global trade.
Yeah.
And also GDP. That was a verbal mistake. I know that. It's 40% and it's growing. And these are affluent, educated countries which understand the new digital market that we live in.
So is this going to, is it going to help Trudeau? Is it going to help Mulcair? Is it going to help Harper? Or does it just, have we gotten to the point with trade deals where Canadians just say, meh, we're good with it. It's not going to be a big issue, except for Maud Barlow and a few others?
No, it'll be big with the NDP. They have to oppose it. Like, I worked with John Turner in 88. I don't know to this day if he was really against free trade. He said he was, but I think he just said that because he was the opposition leader, and Mulcair probably has the same rather hypocritical outlook. But I think that the burden falls on Harper, and it's a pity he's lost some good senior ministers. He's got one brilliant one left, Jason Kenney. But they've got to spend the next 2 weeks, if I were advising them, spend the next 2 weeks only hammering away at this issue. More trade for Canada means more jobs, but we're going to lose some, but we're going to gain a lot more quality jobs. Mm-hmm. Dairy farming is not a quality job.
Well, I think dairy farmers would disagree with you on that, but the fact is, their supply management, which they're worried about losing 3% of, that has seen supply management. When it came in, there were 120,000 dairy farms across Canada. Now there's 12,000. You can't say that supply management has helped save jobs on the family farm. It hasn't. So, that's a small issue. I think you're right, more jobs. But let me ask you this. Things are changing in this election campaign, and they're changing quickly. I watched the Nanos numbers for several days showing the Liberals up in Ontario and started to wonder, okay, that's not what I was seeing when I was down there last week. Something is fishy. The Conservatives remain strong in Ontario, I thought.
Yeah.
And then I saw the Ipsos numbers. And the Ipsos numbers showing the 905 region, 45% Liberal, 42% Conservative, and 11% NDP, which explains, I hadn't picked up on the collapse of the NDP. If that's accurate, that's a collapse.
Yes.
When I was in 905, I hadn't picked up on that. But if it's accurate, that explains why the Liberals are growing. It's not because the Conservatives are shrinking. It's because people are running away from Tom Mulcair.
Well, Tom Mulcair frightens a lot of people. One of the reasons is he would allow Canada to break up by one vote in a phony Quebec referendum orchestrated by separatists. That's a huge mistake. And also, on a lot of other issues, Mulcair moved to the center, and even sometimes he's moved to the right of Justin Trudeau, especially on the issue of running a deficit. Mm-hmm. So it's not a good campaign. He won by default. But I think, Brian, when you talk about the polls, by far the most important feature of all the new polls that I've seen, all of them, is when you ask Canadians by age group how they're going to vote. Younger people, aged roughly 18 to 24 or 18 to 29, depending how you add them up, they are much less likely to vote, and they are more pro-NDP and pro-Liberal. When you ask Canadians over 55 years old whether they're going to vote, they are going to vote. They always have voted. They have a lot to lose, and they are going to vote Tory. So a lot of these numerical figures that you put out, percentages, you've got to take them into the context of how almost certainly those particular age groups are going to vote. And if you look at that, I say what the polls are even saying. The polls show that Tories and the Liberals equal, but they show all of them right now the Tories winning a few more seats because of the demographics of the election, the power of rural and suburban ridings over downtown ridings. So these are the realities that the media is not looking back. And frankly, Brian, without digressing too much, Wynne, the politically corrupt Ontario Premier, has come out again yesterday stridently supporting Justin Trudeau. Guess what the media should ask Justin Trudeau? And it's a simple question. Justin, do you support Kathleen Wynne's sex ed program for the children of Ontario, which a lot of conservative, Muslim, Orthodox, Jewish, Catholic parents are totally opposed to having Kathleen Wynne and Justin Trudeau's nanny state deciding how, when, and where their children should learn facts about sex education.
It's not a federal issue, but I tell you, that's part of the reason. You remember back in August, Kathleen Wynne wouldn't shut up campaigning for Justin Trudeau. A couple of things happened together. One, she wasn't helping Trudeau's campaign. Two, the controversy surrounding sex ed's implementation in September started. She went silent for the month of September, didn't she?
But she came back yesterday big time, and Justin has made an alliance with her. She's treating Justin like her protege. She's his mentor.
They are open.
Mentor.
They are
someone's
open.
Got to ask Justin, because this is a huge, even where I live in Rosedale, it's a big issue. A lot of parents don't like their children learning about anal sex when they're pre-teenagers. They think it's wrong.
Age inappropriate.
Their religions think it's wrong. And do you know what Kathleen Wynne is saying, supported by Justin? She thinks anyone who opposes her sex ed plan, which I think was partly drawn up by a convicted sex pervert who
Yeah.
believes in incest. His name is Ben Levin. I think that the parents are legitimately upset. This is a family issue, and Justin has to come out of the closet. Do you support it, Justin, or don't you? And there's a debate in Rosedale on Thursday night at the big Rosedale United Church, and I'm going to go there and ask the Liberal candidate, Krista Freeland,
If she supports
yes or
it.
no, do you support this?
Let me ask you this, Ray. We'll see if that question gets asked. I don't know that I'll have a chance to be out with Justin Trudeau before the election. And even if I did ask it, I don't know if the other media outlets would actually run with his answer. They barely touched him on the issue of, not wanting to take away the citizenship of convicted terrorists who are dual nationals. It made their man look bad, so they went silent on it. Let me ask you this. We'll end on this. I've never seen an election. I've only covered 7 or 8 federal elections. I've never seen a federal election like this where the polls are so fluid, where the electorate is so up and down. By this point, you normally have a sense of where things are heading. And at this point, I only know that things can change.
I think it's an epic election. I think the demographics I referred to, the aging voter population, young people are less inclined to vote, and they all say they're going to vote. And another thing, Brian, to conclude, I think a lot of voters lie when the pollsters ask them how they're going to vote, because they read on social media what a bad guy Harper is. In fact, he's done a relatively good job. I think they don't admit that they are going to vote Tory. And on this free trade issue with the Pacific Rim, if you want to call it that, with 40% of the world's GDP, I think that is a no-brainer because they know voters are not stupid. Trade, wider trade, freer trade means more jobs for Canada, period.
We've always been a trading country, whether it was beaver pelts to Europe, salt cod to Jamaica, getting Newfoundland screech rum from them. We've always been a trading nation, Ray. Great talking as always, and we'll check back in before the election date comes.
Ow! We're building a studio. Help us out. Click here or visit BuildTheDream.ca.